Everything starts with a dream. A particle of our imagination that teases us of what the future could be like, as long as we fight for it. If life gives you lemons, make apple juice and make people wonder how the hell you did it. Don't tell people what they ask you, tell them what they need to hear to fall in love with you. If you genuinely want something, don't wait for it, teach yourself. People still stereotype all day long. But if you forget your own age, you'll get so focused on the business that you become ultra-confident and people will forget to question how old you are. I've also learned that the biggest lessons came from my biggest mistakes. Inspire yourself to be great. Being good isn't good enough. It doesn't matter if the glass is half empty or half full. Be grateful you have a glass, you're the only person that can decide what's in it. People tend to think that in order to start a new business they have to come up with something new and dazzling, but that's a myth, and it's often propagated by venture capitalists. When you have an idea, figure out the pieces you need quickly, go to market, believe in it, and continue to iterate. You want to hire entrepreneurs, people who are natural problem solvers, the ones who see opportunity when most see impossibility. Find something you love and do it better than everyone else. You quit, you lose. You keep going, you may still lose. But your ambition will never die. Fear is your worst enemy. Risk is your best friend. 3 months after I turned 18 I sold my company for $40 million. There's not only one path, there are different ways to do it, and I'm fortunate that I was able to find that path very early on in life and take that risk. If you're helping someone and expecting something in return, you're doing business not kindness. Do good and expect nothing in return. It'll become your life's greatest gift. I wanted to start living, not endlessly preparing. Always surround yourself with people who want you to succeed. That seems simple on the surface, but when you get out there, in the real world, you will discover that most people are rooting for you to fail. Stay away from them. It took me several years to learn that happiness is elusive without balance. As any business person will tell you, the value of a traditional company is based on 30 times its EBITDA, earnings before income and tax depreciation of assets. If the company makes $1 million a year, it is said to be worth $30 million. But the internet wasn't measured in those terms because most people weren't making any money. Instead, internet companies were evaluated on the perception that someday, in the not-too-distant future, simply because of their connection to the internet, they would be rolling in huge amounts of cash. I watched the transformation in my father as he picked one winner after another, and I liked what I saw. As he watched the stock climb, he would break into a big, broad smile, until he was literally beaming. He was having a very good time. He was loosening up. He finally felt that he was getting ahead. This was why he had come to America, to make life for his family. Often I would help him with his decisions. If he was interested in a particular company, I would research it for him, and we would discuss the possibility of buying a few shares. He treated me like an equal, like his partner. Together we learned about buying on margin, about options trading, about puts and calls. Before long I found myself leaping out of bed at the crack of dawn, pouring myself a bowl of cereal, and parking myself in front of the television. I had the morning newspaper to my left and a pad and pencil to my right. The fact is, anyone can do this. It's just like homework, except it's the real world. It takes time and effort to get an A, and the same rules apply here, but the difference is that this is worth taking very, very seriously. After all, we're not talking about grades, we're talking about serious money. When sacrifices must be made, my father kept saying, and he never got tired of showing us how it was done. This also proved to be a valuable lesson. I learned perseverance from him. I learned that the road to success is paved with failures. Most of all, as I've said, I learned that one should never, ever give up. Tough as things were, my father had pulled himself together. And he never got tired of reassuring us that we were going to be all right. Somebody else, somebody smarter than I, had acquired the name Business.com, and he subsequently sold it for $7.5 million. But he had done his research. Nobody owned that name. I promised myself that there would be no shortcuts next time. If I had a job to do, no matter how small, I would always do it right. 1. Still, I am not a patient man. I knew nothing happened overnight, but I also knew I had to have a concrete plan. I told myself that I would give myself 5 years to make my dreams come true and that everything I did from that day forth would be a step in that direction, even if that step seemed a little oblique. I wasn't exactly sure what I hoped to accomplish, but internet advertising remained at the top of my list. In an effort to make sure I understood the intricacies of the business, I started calling around to see what I could learn from anyone who was even remotely connected to internet advertising. As I mentioned, I was something of an introvert, and I was a little nervous, so I kept practicing my pitch in front of the mirror. I lowered my voice a notch and tried to sound older than my 16 years.